Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hello, Crazy Cool parents. Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast as we begin the month of March. And so we've decided that, why are you laughing at me?
Because I'm thinking about humming. Oh,
And so we are going to march. We're going to march into marriage this month. So think about March being the marriage march.
And so that's where I was thinking of when the saints go marching in, because we're saints in our marriage, right?
Oh, yes. We are such saints. We are all
We
saints.
need to be saints
yes.
in our marriage.
Yes. And so this month, all month, we're going to focus on marriage, and we're going to start out with Don and Suzanne talking about this, talking about our marriage. We're going to talk to our kids about their married kids, the ones that aren't married, but of course we won't have them on the podcast. But we are going to then, at the end of the month, we have a special treat for you. We're going to interview Dave and Ashley Willis, who are the authors of Naked Marriage.
And they have a Naked Marriage podcast, too,
They have a
right?
Naked Marriage podcast, and they have a new book coming out as well that they're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. So really cool book. I've already read their Naked Marriage book. Go get it. It's a great book. And
and their new book talks about health in marriage, which is really interesting.
But today we were talking a little bit, and Macy was asking us questions about our marriage, and we said, "Well, guess what, Macy? We'll pull you in.
You have earned a role.
That's right.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, if somebody's going to sing, it needs to be her.
Exactly. So Macy said, "Well, why don't you take these questions, Macy, and we'll just ask us in the podcast so that we can let our listeners and our Crazy Cool parents in on the deal." So before we get to Macy, before we bring Macy on, just again about the March marriage month, as we marriage march. I don't know how to say that but
say it 5 times
yeah,
fast.
exactly. The goal is we're going to strengthen your marriage. Right, honey?
Yeah. And so I just think the main point of this podcast, but through the whole series of March, is just, our family dashboard, when we talk about all the different lines, and we talk a lot about, strengthening those lines from parent to child. And so we just want to take this month and we want to talk about strengthening that line in that marriage relationship. And we've done a few podcasts on this, not very many. I mean, the one I guess I would recommend if you want to listen to more podcasts is go back to number 64, and we just talked about what marriage was like in quarantine. Probably.
Do we want to relive that?
A year ago. Yeah. We don't talk much about quarantine, but we do talk a little bit about marriage. But what we're going to talk about today, though, is the things that we've learned and the things that we're currently learning in our marriage. And Macy's got a bunch of great questions for us. And Don and I are working on this year is our 30th year of marriage, and so. Yeah, and so we have literally marched through 3 decades of being married together. I think you said
that like we have, like one for each decade.
we yes, exactly.
All right, so so we're going to do that all throughout the month, and so Macy, take it away.
Yeah. Well, we're going to kick off with Don and Suze, what I like to call them. People think it's weird that we call our parents by their first name, but all you kids out there listening to this podcast, you can do it too if you want.
Well, you will when you're teenagers. It's just a rite of passage.
But honestly, I'm excited because I think that my husband and I have just celebrated our 1 year, and
Woo-hoo!
I actually just
We'll hear more about that.
Yeah, we will. Coming up soon. And I actually just talked to my grandma today, and her and my grandpa have been married for 67 years.
I'm so glad you reminded me.
And that is just absolutely mind-blowing. And so I just feel excited to get to talk to my mom and dad. I believe in them. I believe in their marriage, and I have learned a lot from them. So I'm excited for you guys to get to do the same. So first question, the basic marriage 101 is, how did you, Don and Suzanne, meet?
Oh, so you're going back to the very beginning.
Yeah. Day one.
Just super simple. We met on a blind date. one of Don's friends' wives knew me and set us up on a blind date. And I mean, how I sum that up is I walked in and I felt like God said, "You're going to marry him in a year," and I did.
You did.
It's craziness.
Yep.
It happens, people, not just
Yep.
in the movies.
Yep.
And so, what was it that even made you attracted to each other? I mean, obviously a sign from God, direct words, it's helpful. But what made you attracted to each other when you first met?
Well, Suzanne was like super good looking.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, there was like, we both went in and we're like, they're good looking. Okay, we can go forward. We can go past this because, blind date, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, no telling.
But no, I think that there is I was super attracted to her, and then just got to know her, and there was there was just a spirit about it. I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use to describe it. There was just a spirit about her that she was confident, and she wanted to take on life. She was funny. She was engaging, and she was full of life. And I really just enjoyed that. She made me laugh, and she laughed a lot. And it was just something that was fun. And then as we went on throughout, we dated from the time we met to the time we got married was a year.
Okay.
Maybe a little over a year.
Yeah.
A year and a month or so. But in that time, I also learned that she was such a servant and such a helper, and she loved Jesus. And I was at that time, I would say I was transitioning in my faith. So because I had a faith when I was younger, had kind of lost it through the college and that season, but was coming back to it. So was really attracted to her faith as well.
So, Mom, you said that when you saw him, you felt like you heard from God.
Yeah.
But then what actually made you get to know him and want to marry him?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that I heard from God, and then I spent the rest of the year fighting God. Like, no, this can't be. This isn't true. Because I think that I was probably a little bit scared of commitment. But for me, what attracted me to I want to say dad to Don. There was so many things. I mean, he was a hard worker. So you have to understand where I am in my story in my life. I had a little girl. I had Molly. And so not only was I looking for a husband, but I was also looking for a father and a father to be for the rest of my children, because I knew I wanted a whole bunch of children. And so there was
I didn't know that at the time.
It's not a first date topic usually.
Yeah, had no idea.
And so there was a bunch of qualities that I guess I would say I was looking for, and he just checked them off. He was a hard worker. He had perseverance. He, what he set his mind to, he would make it happen. He was a pursuer. He was an extrovert. He was an external processor. I mean, all the things, and I kind of lined up all the things I'm not good at, and he was good at, and I'm like, there's a match. We're gonna be good at that.
Little did we know what that would bode for the future.
And there came a switch somewhere in there where it's like, wait a minute, why aren't you more like me?
That's right.
Opposites attract? Question mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you kind of said that and touched on that like you saw things in him you liked, but both of y'all have said as you got further and further into the dating process, more questions came up. Do either of you want to comment on that or speak to that?
Well, for me, I don't think I would say it like that, because I think as when I first met Suzanne, she had a child. There was a lot of questions I had, is that, oh my goodness, I hadn't, I didn't plan on that, just like she never, really planned on Molly in the first place. But, and so at first I was like, there were a lot of questions, but as I went on, I think more questions got answered for me.
Yeah.
It became, because as I got to know her, it was like, wow, this is an amazing lady. And I even, I fell in love with Molly and married her mother, because I just was, I really did fall in love with Molly as a little 2-year-old girl, and had never been around little kids. And so was kind of learned to be a potential father at the same time as we're going through that relationship.
Yeah. And that was cool too, to even see a guy who's never been around kids before, how that flipped and it changed, and to see him interact. And he was so fun. He brought so much fun, and she adored him. And so it was good to see that too.
So before we go out of the dating conversation, is there anything you want to speak into for dating your spouse or just the dating process in general for parents and families?
Well, the thing I was thinking of is even for you that are married, however long you've been married, I do think it's a really good exercise to go back to when you did meet. Guys, I just, maybe challenge you, go out on a date, go out to dinner and have the conversation. You remember when we met? Yeah. Remember when that was like, and spark some of those first feelings, first, and then from there, even go back to now, why did you marry me? What attracted me to you, and brag on each other because it feels good, build each other up and say, well, I thought you were beautiful. I thought you were so cute. You had these big blue eyes and, and just all the different things. I just think that it stirs up in us the things that sometimes we put on the back burner in our marriage. And so
that's cool.
That's what I would say to those of you that are married right now, no matter how many years it's been.
Yeah. So you can stop the podcast right now, go find your spouse, and go back to the first
date it up. Date it up.
Just hit pause.
Yeah, just come back, please. No, that's really cool. I love that. Even like for Jared and I, only being 1 year into our marriage, to go back and relive the whole dating and falling in love process, like going down memory lane together. I just see that being like a rekindling or a powerful thing. Super cool. Okay, so you mentioned that you lined up all your qualities versus all of Dad's qualities and the differences. What are some things that you guys think you are actually the same in or alike?
I think it's the main thing that's happened is we had a love for Jesus when we started, and we never stopped pursuing that love. That each other, we never stopped pursuing it. I think we also had a heart for family, that we wanted our family to be. We had a sense of, I want family to be done well. Yeah. I also wanted marriage to be done well, and so you combine that with the relationship with God and the marriage and the family, and then we were also we wanted excellence in our lives. I mean, we were like, Suzanne's a hard worker as well, and so we weren't strangers to how things needed to be done, and I think those were some things that we were similar in.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think what I'd add to that too is that we're not big conflict people. We're not big yell and scream people, and so that was nice too. Is that we wouldn't, yell at each other, or it wasn't like we didn't have a chaotic home. We both carry peace with us. We're not slam doors kind of people, and so I think that was helpful.
But then I guess the next question is how we're different as well.
How did you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. How are you guys different?
And then the list gets long, because but I mean, it's long in a good way in so many ways. But as we'll talk about, I mean, it's presented its challenges. I'm much more of an external extrovert, external processor,
which I thought was such a great idea when we got married. But then when he wanted me to externally process and I couldn't, then it's like
the house.
I'm handicapped. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And he's like, "There's nothing wrong with you. Just talk."
She's much more of a feeler. I'm much more of a thinker. I process with the mind. She processes much more. She's
well, let me just say too, just to add to that, what we've learned even with that right there is that I say, "What do you think?" and he says, "How do you feel?" Well, I mean, and it's the exact same question and you get the exact same answer, but it's when you ask it like that, it's totally different.
Yeah. Or if you ask the person opposite, like if he asks you what you think, you're like, I don't care. Or if he asks him what he feels, he's like,
Well, and just things like she's much more particular about things. I'm much more easy. I don't the preferences aren't there with me, and so there's. And then,
which is a beautiful thing, because like he'll walk in and he'll see the sink full of dishes and it doesn't bother him at all. Yeah. But I'll walk in and he will have left a sink full of dishes and I'm like, what is going on here?
She's a relationship ninja, is what I always call her. I am more of a teacher. I'm more of a let's get it done. I'm more of a businessman. I can figure out the strategy and the systems, and so for years, for example, I tried to put systems in her life because I thought that that's what she
y'all
needed.
know that systems is a 4-letter word? I know it's not spelled with only 4 letters, but
but it didn't work at all. So there were some things like that. There were differences as well. We were, she's female, I'm male. I mean, there's just so
that's
many.
biblical, though. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. But it brought so many things to as far as differences that we had to deal with. But yeah, those are some of them. What would you think of some of those other ones?
I had one and it just left. I was just thinking about even how we time was probably one of our biggest.
Yeah, she's never been on time. I want to be early, and I stress about it when we do.
Yeah, so I don't value time at all, and I am looking so forward to heaven when the parameter of time is lifted, and we can just be. Yeah. We can just be, because that's what I want to do. And so I just laugh at all the fights we would get in, either on the way to church because we were late, or once we were at church and we were leaving, and I would be standing in a conversation with somebody, giving them that ninja relational eye contact, listening, fully present. And he's got all 6 kids or 7 kids, depending on how many we had, 4 or 5, whatever, in the car waiting for me. It's 98 degrees in Texas, and he's like, oh my gosh, hurry up. And I'm just flitting away with time is great. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we've tried to meet in the middle. I don't know that we have. We've just relaxed our standards for each other.
Sure.
Well, and I hope that parents, you resonate and relate to this and hear that differences and similarities are part of it. One of the biggest things we were taught in marriage counseling is marriage is not for your happiness, it's for your holiness.
Right.
And so the whole process of bumping up against each other, coming against different qualities, differences, similarities, it's a part of it. But just hear this, parents, that you're not alone, and your differences don't make you or break you. They just build you and refine you. And so can we just talk a little bit about the first decade of your marriage, and specifically what are maybe some of the struggles or some of the big rocks that you guys had to process or work through in the first 10 years or so of your marriage?
Let me go first so I don't forget it. I think that our biggest struggle in that first decade was we were trying to make each other. I was trying to make him a Suzanne, and he was trying to make me a Don. And our differences would rub up against each other. And I don't know if we even understood what we believe. I knew that we were on the same page on, like you said, family and work and all of those things. And so those things ran very smoothly. But when it came to anything that we were different about, that just became a struggle with us. I mean, and it honestly, I think it affected my identity in that first year of marriage. And Don and I remember going out to dinner at one point in time, and there was an aha moment. And I remember saying, oh, I've been trying to be like you. And I've been trying to make you like me. I was trying to make us be the same. And reality is, we don't need 2 Suzannes in this world. Yeah. And we don't need 2 Dons in this world. We need Don and Suzanne, the 2 of them, to be one. Yeah. And so that was one of our biggest struggles.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we had our share of parenting issues because we had a lot of little kids, a lot of little girls, and I wanted to be more of a disciplinarian and wanted to have more structure and more firmness and I felt like that, things just kind of flew around, and they weren't there. I
think float would be a better word, but I mean, if you want to use flew, that's fine. But it was
that there was, and
it's more of a glide.
It was exactly
through life,
and
like a princess with a bunch of little princesses in tow.
Exactly,
that's how we remember it. I'm just kidding.
Well, and there were money struggles. I wanted to put a budget in place, again, systems. I wanted us to watch our money. And I felt like that, what that made her feel like is I never wanted to spend money on her because I felt she doesn't like control. She doesn't like, nobody does, but I mean, really, but she doesn't like, being controlled, and she's much more freeform. So to her, the budget was, and again, so much of this stuff we're trying to help.
Yeah.
We never have been against each other in terms of that's one of the great, you were talking about similarities and things. Both of us have always been for each other, for the marriage, for
Right.
God, and that's been a great benefit.
We didn't want bad things to happen.
But we hurt each other by trying to help each other. And so now sometimes we were trying to hurt each other too. I mean, there were times we got frustrated and said mean things and stuff, but money issues, parenting issues. Like, for example, I would try to parent Molly, and when I was harsh with Molly in particular, the mama bear in her would come out in particular because, we fought that relationship deal a little bit, and she would, but she would defend the girls sometimes, and I would be, but I was too angry, and so just a lot of parenting issues came up with that, and then just feeling like that we weren't for each other, that we would, because of the, many times we felt like that the other person was treating the other person like in last place in relationships and not honoring each other. And so those were some things that really came up that caused, I wouldn't say, but here's what happened is she's right. We didn't really fight. Like, we had a couple of knockdown, drag outs, leave the house, go to mom's, whatever. But usually it was just we'd avoid each other. And we would just withdraw because we're both super independent. And so, we can take care of ourselves, and we can go to God with it. We could do all those things. And so we would just kind of get cool and do it like that. That's what a lot of our marriage conflicts were.
Yeah.
But days go by.
Earlier you said neither of you are really conflict oriented. You both carry peace. But then you just referenced
we also carry avoidance.
There was some, obviously, in relationship, there's conflicts and tension. And so you kind of said there were bad fights, but there was also avoidance. Mom, how would you say you guys were just getting real? How would you guys fight, or what did y'all's conflicts look like?
So remember, Don's external processor and he's extrovert. And so what would happen is he would come at me with whatever the issue was, or I would come at him with whatever the issue was, and then I would shut down. And so
I would pursue.
And he would pursue to a point, and then he would shut down because it's like he didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to wound me. He didn't want to. And so But
in the meantime, I'm carrying my own internal struggles with that because not feeling like she cares, not feeling like it's got to be her way all the time, or she throws a fit type thing is what I'm thinking. And it's just, and therefore I'm like resenting that, but not solving it either.
Yeah, and I think that even goes back to what was one of our struggles, and that was, like he said, number 10 on the list. I would put the relationship with the kids first, or I would put cleaning the house first, or fixing dinner first, or there was a lot of things that came before him. And I think that was one of our struggles too in that first decade, just trying to figure out how to play that role and have him be my superhero and treat him that way.
The other thing I think was really big in the first decade of marriage is we didn't really respect each other in this way. Like, I was kind of I was pursuing spiritual things. I would read my Bible and kind of felt like that, she didn't have the spiritual maturity that I did, basically, in some ways. And now she was, on the other hand, going...
I know, I was just interrupt for a second. Yeah. That was another night that we went out to dinner, and I remember him saying, I don't think you're spiritual, whatever. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? That's what I think about you. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you have a spiritual clue.
Yeah. No. because she was coming more from a faith perspective. I was coming more from a theology and just understanding, the mind versus the feelings. Yeah. And so that's what I was going to say is both of us thought, you're a spiritual, little pygmy over here.
And I'm a guru.
Yeah, exactly. And so therefore we're looking down at each other. Yeah. Even though we don't really say it, but we're kind of going,
we treated each other that way.
If you would just be a little bit more spiritual like me, then so I think that was a lot of it. And the reason I say that is because it flipped sometime in the second decade. Yeah. Early in the second decade, both of us started to gain an appreciation for each other's spiritual life. Yeah. And it took a long time, and that was a big breakthrough because we really started to change the way we thought at that point.
I remember being blown away. Don can quote scripture. He can pull it. He remembers where references are. Yeah. And he can say, oh, that's 1 Corinthians, that's whatever. And I never have been able to do that. And I remember, and didn't you memorize like all of Romans, a whole giant section of Romans, and I don't even resonate with Romans. I think Paul just rambles, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even comprehend. And so I just remember that being a really big flip too, and just realizing what a mighty man of God he is, and how he does have God's word hidden in his heart, and he knows where to find it.
Yeah.
Mine's hidden too, but once again, it's floating around.
It just pops up when I need it.
Exactly. I can't tell you where to find it, but it's there.
It glides.
Yeah, it just glides right in.
Exactly. Well, it's cool just hearing y'all kind of rehash because I was, non-existent for the first 5 years, and then I was a toddler for the second 5 years.
Oh, you were you was the cutest toddler in the whole world.
And so hearing you guys kind of share the foundation, if you will, of your marriage is encouraging. And I just, again, parents, I encourage you that, like, wherever you're at in your marriage, you have several little kids running around, or you have teenagers or whatever, your marriage is worth fighting for. And that's kind of what I want y'all to kind of talk about now is, how did you do it? Like, how did you get on the same page?
Yeah.
How did that flip happen from comparing yourselves to each other and looking at your differences as problems? Like, what was the revelation, or what was the process of unity?
Well, one of it is we deepened our faith. Mm-hmm. And so as God gave us revelation, and it changed for example, all during that time, starting the second decade, I was going from a principle-centered Christian to a heart-centered Christian. And that was I was reading John Eldridge. I had a mentor come into my life and say, it's and show me so many things about the grace of God, about my identity in Christ. I didn't have to perform to be good, for God anymore. And those were huge revelations during that starting. I mean, it's still happening, 20 years later. But that made me see myself differently, which then made me see Suzanne differently.
That's cool.
And then the second thing for me is that I really did start to see her differently, and I started to just appreciate her gifts, and that was and started to see some of those I had previously perceived as liabilities.
Yeah.
And I saw like the fact that time doesn't matter to her. Okay, saw that as a liability. She never gets anything done or whatever, and that's not really true. But I mean, I would think those thoughts of them. How does she ever get anything done or whatever? And I thought, you know what? In fact, I need to learn from her the way she does relationships.
Yeah.
And, I need to learn from what she's doing because she's connecting with people and I'm not. That's a strength. It's not a liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think right there with that, I think it goes into how do we get on the same page? We flipped our thinking and we changed our perspective. Because I remember going into the marriage in that first 10 years thinking he was my knight in shining armor, meaning that he was going to rescue me from he was going to be there. He was going to think like me and do like me. And he was going to, and that is not at all what marriage is about. And I think that it took me a decade to realize, what he is bringing to the table actually complements. It adds to who I am. It challenges me. It makes me a better person. It doesn't hold me back, and it doesn't stop me from being who I am, but it actually allows me to be who I am. And it was nice because as he was flipping and he was seeing the things that I brought to the table as valuable, then he started encouraging those things and lifting those up and saying, how do you do that? And let me do, and teach me or show me. And that right there made me feel like, this is good. I mean, I'm good, you're good, we're good.
Yeah, that's really good. And there's so many like connecting sentences you both just said that like our choices connected us or unified us or helped us get on the same page to run in the same direction.
And also during this second decade as well, and starting with the first decade, there's a lot of kids.
Yeah, distraction. That's why I think that your average person maybe can make these connections sooner. And then even hopefully you guys out there that are listening, you guys can make these connections sooner.
We are having babies every 2 or 3 years. I mean, she's going through pregnancy.
No one's sleeping
no
ever.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got we were diapers everywhere.
Nursing.
And we're starting to do, sports and school and everything. And
so in the midst of all of that, how did you guys keep building or how did you stay connected through?
Yeah, with marriage with a lot of little kids.
Yeah.
this is one of the things that Don was really good at. He was really good about creating opportunities for us to get away. And so we started like anniversary number 1. We went and stayed at a bed and breakfast and did that every year. It was in November. It was right before Thanksgiving, the weekend before. And then it turned into shopping for the kids. We'd go stay.
Always had a baby with us.
Yeah, always had a nursing infant with us.
And there's one thing that I tell any of my dads that I'm counseling: you go to bed with your wife every night.
Yeah.
You go to bed. And we did that. And in the midst of all the chaos, sometimes we were not very happy with each other when we went to bed at night. We would be maybe still, coming through the day or whatever. But I bet over almost 30 years now, and I traveled a little bit during that time period. But so other than travel and things like that, I would say 95% of the time that we are in bed together and we talk before we go to bed.
That's good.
And I think that really did ground our marriage. It made us, we were there for each other, and we wouldn't. Sometimes it would be, at late at night, because I think we go to bed a little bit later because of that, because we're always wanting each other to go
waiting
to bed
for the
together.
other one.
Yeah.
And I would run around and, I don't know about you moms, but when you put your kids to bed, all of a sudden there's this whole second wind of energy. And so you run around and clean the house and do all the things and reset. Yeah. And so Don would either help me do that, or else he would be in bed, but waiting for me. He wouldn't go to sleep. Like I wouldn't walk in to a sleeping husband while I was just in a dark room while I was working my tail off. He would be in there, and I would walk in and he'd go, "Hey, anything I can do, anything I can help you with?"
Yeah.
And usually it was just my time alone. It's like, no, I didn't want you to help me. I just want to run around. Another thing that I thought of though, and I tell parents all the time if I can, is how we stayed connected with a lot of little kids is we sat next to each other. And I know that sounds so simple, but at church, we made a priority that it would be Don and Suzanne and then the line of little duckies, or at a restaurant, it would be Don and Suzanne and the line of little duckies. And a lot of the times I see mamas, putting 2 or 3 kids in between them and their husbands so that they
defense.
can, play defense, exactly, so that they can, lasso them in and do that in. And while that is fine, I just found it more valuable to show my kids that no, we are a unified team. We're together. He's mine. We're each other's.
And if you notice, there's, as we've talked about things, there's some things that she says were important to her, and some things that I initiated. And so I think that happens in the marriage. You go, man, there's things that you guys need to fight for with each other, and just make them happen. You know?
And they're like your things. Like you decide on them, and maybe one spouse pursues it, one spouse pursues it, but you both recognize that it's important to a degree.
Another thing that we did when we had little kids, which was once again Don's idea, because I'm a homebody and I never wanted to leave and I'm an introvert, is he would take me out on a date at least 3 times a week. 3 times. Wow,
that is impressive. Your
at least 3
times
budget. 3 times a month, I would say. But maybe it was every other month when we were little, because when the girls got old enough to babysit for us, we had a lot more freedom. And so I don't know about those early. It might have been just once a month, but we would go out together with friends. But it was a once a week thing. He would rescue me from the house and all the things to do, and he would go out and we would talk to each other, and sometimes I would be a brat and wouldn't want to talk to him, or I'd be an introvert or whatever, but it's like the point is for us to do it together, but the point was also to get me out of the house, and because I loved the children so much more
I remember because I was the one that always cried every time you left.
Yes, and it was hard to leave.
I was the babysitter's nightmare, because I'd go hide in the closet. She couldn't find me for an hour.
She got that feeling.
Suzanne, I'm sorry, but I lost one.
I'm like, no, you didn't lose her. She's in the closet. Leave her there.
Yeah, she's fine.
She's an introvert too.
So those are a few of our ways that we connected with lots of littles, and we hope that you guys are taking time to do that too. Some of those things, or else get together and talk with your spouse and say, what are some things we're doing to connect? And I think you'll be surprised. Well, we do this and we do this. Yeah,
so good. Okay, $1 million question. I feel like everyone gets asked this. What do you wish you knew? Like, what do you know now in this season that, year 1 marriage people, year 5, year 7, like, what's something that you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
So I'm going to start out with, your job as a husband and a wife is to help your spouse be their best, not what you want them to be, but what them. God wants them to be, and to help them become their best. I think that we're talking about the first decade of marriage. I think we wounded each other more in trying to help each other improve the way we wanted them to improve. Yeah. Suzanne, you need more systems. Suzanne, you need to be like this. Suzanne, you need to get in the Bible more, or whatever. Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, how did God make this precious woman, and what's he speaking to me about how she wants to be her best, and how can I not make that happen, but just how can I be a blessing in encouraging that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the thing that has bubbled up in our third decade of marriage is that we feel like we don't speak the same language, which is accurate because we're male and female. So that automatically makes a different language. There's, 4 years difference between us. That, we were raised in two different families. There's a million reasons why we speak different languages. Yeah. But if I would have known that back then I would have worked harder to learn his language instead of trying to have him, no, this is my language. This is what I'm saying. And so what that really breaks down to say is that I would have tried to understand him more, and I would have worked really hard to help him understand me. And I would have used words like, well, this is what I'm feeling, and this is, and I feel like this when you say this, and things like that. And we just didn't do that. We didn't take care of our marriage like that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap up with any resources you guys might have for us. Oh, okay. But what are qualities that you've discovered that must be in your marriage? So building blocks that must be in the foundation of a good marriage. You can say simple things, or just if there's qualities that come to mind, or attributes, characteristics, things like that.
Yeah. So for one of the is like honesty. Like Don never lied to me. He was never disloyal. He never when he left.
That you know of.
Yikes. Disloyal or no? Because we might have an issue. No, just kidding.
And we're done for the
night. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No. I could trust him. Like in the beginning when we were married, he would travel. And I trusted him when he traveled. I knew he wasn't going to be picking anybody up, and he wasn't going to be doing, stupid stuff or whatever that is. And so I think that those are a couple of them: honesty, and then I knew he wasn't going to flirt with my friends if they came over, or my sister or whoever.
Yeah. Jealousy just doesn't work in a marriage at all. And so that's another thing. I just never had to worry about Suzanne and being, flirting with other guys. It just didn't even cross our minds about the jealousy or things like that, which really just does so much damage in a marriage. I think that serving is so important. I was looking up just Philippians 2, and this is almost like my marriage mantra, even though it's difficult to do all the time. It says, Philippians 2:3 says, do nothing. And let's go back to that word. Let's start over. Okay. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Yeah. Rather, in humility, value others, the most important other being your spouse, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. It goes on to say that, Christ Jesus, he humbled himself. Even though he was God, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death. And so when I talk to men about marriage, I'm like, that's your standard. Yeah. That's what you do. And if you do that well and you pursue God and pursue that humility in your marriage, that blows up everything in a good way. Yeah. It because your wife's going to feel like, it doesn't mean, and then the man says a lot to me, well, that means I have to just give in every time. And
that's exactly how I interpret that.
Exactly. But you know what? And honestly, I thought for many years that's what that meant. And it actually damaged our marriage because I wouldn't fight for the right things. Yeah. I fought for her approval. Yeah. I fought for no conflict. I fought for accommodating and making sure, is she good?
And which was backfired, because then I didn't feel like he was all in. I didn't feel like he was authentic. He wasn't real.
He didn't care.
He didn't care. We weren't connected. And so he was aloof.
And so, but back to that, it's like, instead we in humility, you it's hard to explain, but you just reach out for what's good for them, and reach out for what's good for your marriage and good for your family. And it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned about qualities I want in a marriage. Yeah.
And then just to piggyback off of that a little bit too, is the humility. With humility comes forgiveness and asking forgiveness. And I feel like that was something we had to learn along the way too. I don't know if we were just young and punks and dumb or prideful or what it was.
Yes, to all the above.
Yes, but it was when we started incorporating, I'm so sorry, will you please forgive me? I didn't mean to say it like that, or that's not what I meant at all. And I'm, as soon as we started doing that right there completely diffuses any offense or even as the enemy is trying to get in, because reality is the enemy doesn't want you to have a good marriage. He didn't want us to have a good marriage. He didn't want us to be on the same page ever. And so he's working against that at all times. And I've just found that asking forgiveness is one of those, like the sword, you bring it out and you just slice the enemy in half, and he has no say anymore. And all the feelings that were surrounding the issue are now gone because forgiveness has entered the room.
Right. So good. And what the enemy always intends for evil, God can always pull together for good, or change for good. And
and the argument or the offense or whatever actually knits us together.
Yeah, and makes you stronger.
Yes,
and gives you a testimony to share with other families. And that's kind of where I want us to land as parents. Wherever you're at, wherever your marriage is at, like, know that there's hope. That there's always like ground to take and ground to reclaim from the enemy. If you feel like there's brokenness or hopelessness in your marriage, just being one of the Manning kids and watching my parents' marriage, I can attest that it was not always perfect, and the avoidance sessions were awkward, and it like loomed in our whole house. And so like, take this, soberly, but your kids know, like, if your marriage is good or not. And like, they respond to that, and your family kind of resonates with whatever's happening in your marriage. And so,
really, y'all knew all that time?
When the bathroom door was closed, you knew not to go in. That's how we knew y'all were okay. But really, as we just wrap up this podcast, they just want y'all to be encouraged that wherever you're at, that there's hope for your marriage, and there's always ways to grow. And my parents are a resource, and they have used resources throughout the last 30 years to help them grow and cultivate unity and relationship, and those truths and those characteristics they're talking about. And so, really quick, y'all have any resources you'd want to recommend?
Yes, I just want to do one in the beginning is the 5 love languages. Anything you can learn about yourself and then learn how to interact with your spouse is beautiful. So highly recommend that one. Yes, Gary Chapman. And then that's on the beginning of our marriage. And then the one that's been really recently is the Enneagram, and learning what those numbers are, and learning that he's a 3 and I'm a 2, and what does a 2 think and feel, and what does a 3 think. That has been huge for us as well. And so that's,
which, if nobody knows what that is, that's just a personality test that tells you some things. There's lots of different personality tests that can help you as well, but that's one that
we've done strength finders and
a lot of them have like Christian either counselors or educators that have like picked up the tool and really help differentiate, like, this is not your identity, this is not all you'll ever be. It's really like a tool to help you know yourself.
I remember for a couple of years early in our marriage, we went to the Family Life Conference and spent a weekend on, it was different marriage speakers and things. Did the Love and Respect book. I think that's a good one that really showed, that what men want versus what women want.
Right. In the Sacred Marriage, I think you mentioned that. Yeah. That's where it's better to be happy. It's better to be, marriage is created to be holy, not to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just to wrap up, there's tons of resources out there. To wrap up the 27th time.
You were right into that microphone there.
Just right in. Dad just lost it. Sorry, people.
The hearing aids will come tomorrow with my headphones here.
Sorry, keep going, Mom.
I might have lost my train of thought with that.
27th wrap up.
It came back, yeah. Just work on that marriage line is what we're trying to say. By all means, use the resources. There's the Naked podcast, the people that we're going to interview.
Naked Marriage podcast. They're not naked on the podcast.
It's a podcast where they wear nothing. It's great.
But it's a podcast.
But you can't see it, so it doesn't matter. Oh my gosh. So my point that I'm trying to get through, it's been very difficult, is that the marriage line is very valuable. It's so important. And I'm so glad Maisie brought up that your kids do feel it. I mean, and even in our diagram, it's up above the kids. It's that you've got the parents' relationship to God, you've got those two, you've got that relationship, and then you've got the kids' relationship. It's, I would say, foundational. Yeah. They know. I mean, and so work on that. Make it a priority. Do better than we did. I mean, don't be distracted by your kids and their activities and things. Make it a priority. And so maybe do a podcast together or read a book together. Do something that invests in your marriage on a daily, weekly, and monthly level. Yeah. Daily could be you smile at each other, you touch each other, make eye contact. Yes, the simple things. Send a text. I love you. Just
go to bed together.
Go to bed. Yes, do something daily. Do something special weekly, whether that's a date night or you buy something for each other or you write in just something special. Then do something monthly, do something a little bigger, and then do something yearly where you're going to really invest in it.
That's really good.
Yep.
Okay.
So Macy, great job interviewing us.
Yes.
Yes, you're great.
I'll be back.
Yes. Yeah. And so we want you to stay with us, parents, as we focus on marriage. Yeah. We're doing a marriage march in the month of March. We're gonna we're gonna march through
marriage.
We're gonna march through March with doing marriage
about marriage.
Yes. And so excited. And thank you for staying with us today. And we are so excited about email us info@crazycoolfamily.com with your marriage questions, with anything that you would love us to talk about in our marriage month as we march through marriage. And also just go follow us on Facebook. Go follow us on Instagram, Crazy Cool Family. We have a Crazy Cool Family community if you want to get involved in that. And we look forward to going with you during the month of March as we work on marriage.
Yeah.
Any closing comments? We'll see you next time, parents. Go be crazy. crazycoolfamily.com.